Hello everyone, and welcome to this Dom Labs video. This is the first video in the series where we learn how to make a driving game inside of Unity. What we're going to want to do to start this off is to go into our Unity Hub and click the New Project button. Then, I'm going to click the Universal 2D, and inside the editor version, you can choose the new Unity version, but for right now, I'm going to keep mine at Unity version 2022.3. You're going to want to click 2D, and then for your project name, I'm going to name it something like car driving. You can name it something like that or whatever you want to, and then you're going to click create project and it will create it. Once your project is created, come back to this video to learn more. Once your Unity project has been opened up, you will see something like this with just a sample scene with nothing inside of it. Right now I'm going to create the car, so I'm going to right click on the hierarchy, create 2D object, a sprite, and then I'm going to do a capsule, and this I'm going to name car. And you can see that this is a capsule and it looks something a bit like a car, a bit more than just a square would, so that's why I'm using that. I'm going to reset the transform to put it in the middle, and then I'm going to add a new script to it, and I'm going to name this car controller. Then, once this script has been added, I'm going to open it up inside of my choice of coding editor. For me, I'm going to be doing Microsoft Visual Studio. For you, you can choose whatever you want. But once we're inside this script, we're going to have to create a variable up here at the top. We're going to create a public float, and this one's going to be move speed. Right now I'm going to set this to 0.01f, and then we're going to create another public float, and this one's going to be turn speed. I'm going to set this to be 0.1f. You see that those are really small numbers, but those actually work because of the methods that we're going to be using to move our player. That means that we are going to move our player 0.01 on the y-axis every time we're moving, and for the turning we're going to be moving it 0.01 on the z-axis. So inside the update, let's call a method called move. We don't have this method yet, so we're going to have to create it. So let's create a private void move method, and then inside of this method we're going to have to create more variables. First one's going to be a float x movement. This one's going to be input.getAxis raw horizontal, and then we're going to have to create a float for the y movement just like we did, and this one's going to be input.getAxis raw vertical. This is just getting the axes. Horizontal is A and D and the left and right arrow keys, and vertical is up and down and WS. So when we push those keys, this will be triggered, so we don't have to just do if statements for getting our if key code whatever. So now we are going to have to check if our Y movement is not equal to 0. So if we're moving, then we're going to do a transform.translate a 0, and then y movement times speed or move speed, and then a 0. What this does is this moves our character on the y-axis times our move speed every single frame that we are moving. And we're going to want to do that with the x movement as well. So if x movement is not equal to 0, what we're going to do in here instead is transform.rotate. Because on the x-axis, we're not going to be moving side to side, we are just going to be rotating our car. So we're going to do a 0, 0, and then a negative x movement times our turn speed. And the reason it's negative is that if it's not negative, when we push the right key, our car will turn left, and when we push the left key, our car will turn right. So we have to have the negative to inverse that to make it seem normal to us. But once we have this, we can go back inside Unity, and then once Unity has uploaded, we can go to the car, check that these values are very small. You can change them, but I like these values. If you want to change them, just make sure that they are very small, because if not, then the car will go flying off the screen whenever you push the button. And then we can click the play button to get it inside of play mode. Once we're inside play mode, however, if we click the up and down arrow keys or the W and S, we can move our player, and then if we do the arrows, we can move our car, and you can see that I can go forwards and backwards, and then I can move it all over here. But there is something a little bit wrong with this, and you can see that I can just go right off the screen right now. But there is one way to fix this by just adding colliders on the edges of our camera boundary, but we don't want to do that because what kind of driving game would this be if it was just a set area? What we're going to want to do is create a camera that follows our player. And the way to do that is to use Cinemachine. There are other ways, but Cinemachine is the easiest and it works very well for what we're going to try to do. So if we go down to Window and then Package Manager, and then Packages in the Unity registry, and then we search for Cinemachine, it will come right up here, and let's click Install. Once Cinemachine is imported, you can X out of the window like I did, and then we're going to right click on our hierarchy, create a Cinemachine, a virtual camera. And this one we can rename to Follow Camera, because this is going to follow our player. You can see here that it's much bigger, and that's because of the lens ortho size. If we change that, you can see that the camera is zooming in and out. I like to have mine around 5, but judging from the size of our player, I think I can do something like 7.5. Then, right here in this follow, we're going to drag our car in. So now it's going to follow our car. When we click play, however, it's not going to look any different just because we're just driving across a blank screen. So let's add a few more objects just to make it so that we're actually moving. I have this square right here. I'm going to duplicate it, have this square. I'm just going to have all of these squares everywhere so that we can see that we're moving. So now, when I click the play button, you can see that I'm moving, and then Cinemachine follows me. You can see this is pretty good because you can see that these squares are moving and that the camera is moving, and it looks really nice. And that is what I wanted to do. With that, that is the end of this first video in this series of how to create a driving game where we just added the player controller and a camera follower. Make sure to stay tuned for the next video where we are going to add power-ups to this game where your car can move faster or move slower. If you like this video, please make sure to give our channel a like and a subscribe because it really helps out a ton. Thank you!